I stood behind the espresso machine, trying to be invisible like I always did. My hands shook as I wiped down counters that were already clean. Then Vincent, my manager, grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and dragged me toward the back door in front of everyone. He was shouting about a mistake I didn't make, about how worthless I was, how easily replaced. I didn't fight back. I never did. But the man in the corner booth, the one everyone whispered about, the one whose presence made the entire staff move differently, he stopped eating. He stood up slowly, and Vincent's face went white. My name is Sophie Chen, and I'd been working at Moretti's Italian restaurant in Brooklyn for 8 months. I was 24 years old and so quiet that most of the staff forgot I existed until they needed something. I preferred it that way. Being invisible meant being safe. Being noticed meant getting hurt. I'd learned that lesson early. My father had been loud, violent, unpredictable. My mother had taught me to move through rooms like air, to anticipate anger before it arrived, to make myself small enough that maybe this time he'd forget I was there. She died when I was 16, a cancer, but really exhaustion from years of absorbing his rage. After that, I lived with an aunt who tolerated me as long as I stayed out of sight and paid rent the moment I turned 18. So I learned to survive by disappearing. I worked morning shifts at a bakery, afternoon shifts at Moretti's, and weekend shifts cleaning office buildings. I slept 4 hours a night in a basement studio apartment in Sunset Park that smelled like mildew and someone else's cigarettes. I had no friends, no social life, just work, survival, and the constant effort to stay beneath notice. Moretti's was supposed to be the good job. It was a respected neighborhood place, family-owned for 3 generations, the kind of restaurant where regulars knew the staff by name and tourists paid premium prices for authenticity. The old owner, Antonio Moretti, had been kind to me during my interview. He'd hired me on the spot, said I had honest eyes, told me the restaurant was like family. Then Antonio had a stroke 6 months ago. His son took over the business operations but rarely came in. Day-to-day management fell to Vincent Caruso, a man in his mid-30s who'd worked his way up from busboy to manager and believed that gave him the right to treat everyone beneath him like property. Vincent was cruel in small ways that never left visible marks. He'd schedule me for doubles, then cut my hours without warning. He'd criticize my work in front of customers, loudly, making sure everyone knew I was incompetent. He'd touch my shoulder, my waist, my lower back when he walked past. Just enough to make me uncomfortable but not enough that I could call it harassment without sounding dramatic. He did it to all the younger female staff, but I was his favorite target because I never pushed back. I never said anything. I just took it and kept working because I needed the job and because fighting back had never protected anyone in my experience. The other service are mostly college students working part-time. He had told me to report him, to document everything, to stand up for myself. But they didn't understand. They had families who'd believe them, futures that could absorb a gap in employment, confidence that came from being raised in homes where their voices mattered. I had none of that. I had survival, and survival meant keeping my head down. The restaurant had regulars who came in weekly. Mrs. Delgado, who always ordered the chicken piccata and left exactly 15%. The Ramirez family with their 3 loud children every Sunday after church. The businessman who sat alone reading the Times and drinking too much wine. And then there was Mr. DeLuca. He came in every Thursday evening at 7, always alone, always requesting the corner booth in my section. He was maybe 50. Impeccably dressed in dark suits that probably cost more than I made in 6 months, with silver threading through his black hair and eyes that noticed everything. He was polite, soft-spoken, and tipped exactly 30% every time. He never asked for anything complicated, just linguine with clam sauce, a glass of Chianti, espresso after. But there was something about him that made the entire restaurant shift when he arrived. Vincent, who berated everyone constantly, became almost servile around Mr. DeLuca. The kitchen staff moved faster. The other servers avoided his section unless absolutely necessary. Even the busboys cleared his table with unusual care. I heard whispers that he was connected, that he ran certain operations in South Brooklyn, that his family name carried weight in circles where weight meant violence. I didn't know if it was true and I didn't ask. I just served him his linguine, refilled his wine once, brought his espresso exactly 10 minutes after he finished eating, and stayed out of his way. He'd been coming for 3 months. He never made small talk beyond thank you and good evening. He read papers sometimes, made quiet phone calls, occasionally met with other men who looked similarly expensive and dangerous. He noticed me, I think, the way observant people notice everything, but he never made me uncomfortable. He was the only person in the restaurant who didn't. The night everything changed started like any Thursday. Mr. DeLuca arrived at 7, was seated in his corner booth, ordered his usual. I brought him water with lemon, a basket of bread, took his order without needing to write it down because it never changed. The restaurant was busy. Tourist season was starting and we were short-staffed because Vincent had fired 2 servers the week before for reasons no one understood. I was handling 6 tables, moving efficiently, staying invisible, doing everything right. Then table 12, a family of 4, got the wrong pasta. The kitchen had mixed up their order with table 9's. Simple mistake. It happened. I apologized, took the plates back, asked the kitchen to fix it immediately. Vincent exploded. He came out of the back office where he'd been drinking I could smell it on him and started shouting at me in the middle of the dining room. In front of everyone, customers stopped eating. The other servers froze. "You're incompetent," he yelled, his face red, spit flying. "How many times do I have to tell you to check orders before you serve them? Are you stupid? Are you completely useless?" "I'm sorry," I said quietly, trying to de-escalate, trying to make myself smaller. The kitchen mixed them up. "I'll fix it." "You'll fix it?" He stepped closer, invading my space in a way that made my skin crawl. "You can't fix anything. Your reliability. You cost me money. You embarrass this restaurant." "Vincent, please," I started. That's when he grabbed my arm, hard. His fingers dug into my bicep with enough force that I knew there'd be bruises. He started dragging me toward the back door, still shouting, telling me I was fired, that I should have been fired months ago, that I was lucky he tolerated me this long. I didn't fight. I never fought. I just let him drag me, my eyes down, my face burning with shame as every customer and staff member watched. This was familiar. This was what happened when you existed in someone else's space. You got hurt and you took it quietly because fighting back only made it worse. But then Vincent stopped walking. His hand went loose on my arm. His face, red with rage 2 seconds ago, went white. He was staring at something behind me. I turned slowly. Mr. DeLuca was standing. He'd risen from his corner booth without a sound. He wasn't moving toward us. He wasn't shouting. He was just standing there, one hand resting on the table, his face completely calm. His dark eyes locked on Vincent with an expression I couldn't read but that Vincent clearly understood perfectly. "Vincent," Mr. DeLuca said quietly. His voice was soft, almost conversational, but it carried through the entire restaurant like a bell. "Let go of her arm." Vincent's hand released immediately. He stepped back, his mouth opening and closing, trying to find words that wouldn't come. Mr. DeLuca walked slowly across the restaurant toward us. Every person in the room watched. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound was his footsteps on the tile floor. He stopped a few feet away, his eyes moving from Vincent to me, taking in my face, my arm where Vincent had grabbed me, the way I was standing, shoulders hunched, trying to disappear. "What's your name?" he asked me gently. "Sophie," I whispered. "Sophie." He said it like he was tasting the word. Then he looked at Vincent. "This is how you manage your staff, Vincent. You drag young women through your restaurant like animals. You humiliate them in front of customers." "Mr. DeLuca, she made a mistake. I was just you were just what?" Mr. DeLuca's voice didn't rise. "It didn't need to. Explain to me what she did that justified putting your hands on her in violence." "It wasn't violence. I was just your fingers will leave bruises on her arm." Mr. DeLuca stepped closer to Vincent. He was slightly shorter, slightly older, but Vincent looked like he was about to collapse. "Do you know who owns this restaurant, Vincent?" "The Moretti family." "Do you know who the Moretti family answers to when they need protection? When they need problems solved? When they need their neighborhood kept safe?" Mr. DeLuca smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. "They answer to me." The restaurant was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. "I've been watching you for 3 months," Mr. DeLuca continued, still in that same soft, terrible voice. "Every week I come here, and every week I watch you humiliate your staff. The young ones, especially the ones who can't fight back. You think I don't notice these things? You think I don't see how people behave when they believe no one's watching?" "I'm sorry," Vincent said, his voice breaking. "I didn't mean you're fired." Mr. DeLuca said it simply, factually, like he was ordering espresso. "Collect your things. Leave. Don't come back. If I hear you're working in any restaurant in Brooklyn, any restaurant my family protects, you'll answer to people much less patient than me." Vincent looked like he might argue. Then he looked at Mr. DeLuca's face and decided against it. He turned and walked quickly toward the back office, his hands shaking. Mr. DeLuca turned to me. His expression softened slightly. "Are you all right?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded. "Go home," he said gently. "Take the rest of the night off. Come back tomorrow. You still have a job here." Vincent doesn't. He walked back to his corner booth, sat down, and returned to his linguine like nothing had happened. Slowly, conversations resumed. The kitchen started moving again. Life continued. But I stood there in the middle of the restaurant, my arm throbbing where Vincent had grabbed me, trying to understand what had just happened. Someone had protected me. Someone had seen me being hurt and decided it wasn't acceptable. It was such a foreign concept that my brain couldn't process it. I should have gone home. Mr. DeLuca had told me to, but I didn't. I finished my shift because leaving felt like weakness, like I was confirming everything Vincent had said about me being useless. The other servers kept asking if I was okay. I said yes because I didn't know how to say anything else. When closing time came, I cleaned my section mechanically, counting my tips, trying not to think. I made $240 including Mr. DeLuca's usual generous 30%. It was a good night, money-wise. It should have felt like a victory. Instead, I felt hollow. I was wiping down my last table when Mr. DeLuca approached. I hadn't noticed him waiting. Most customers were gone. The kitchen was closing. I jumped slightly when he spoke. "Sophie." His voice was as gentle as it had been earlier. "May I speak with you for a moment?" I nodded, setting down my rag, my hands automatically going behind my back in a posture I'd learned meant non-threatening, submissive, small. "You don't need to do that," he said, noticing. "You're not in trouble. I just want to make sure you're truly all right." "I'm fine," I said automatically. "Are you?" The question, asked with genuine concern, almost broke something in me. I wasn't fine. I hadn't been fine in years. But saying that out loud felt dangerous. "Why did you help me?" I asked instead. Mr. DeLuca was quiet for a moment. "I have a daughter," he said finally. "She's about your age, lives in Boston, studying to be a lawyer. She's strong, confident, everything I hoped she'd be. But I remember when she was younger, more vulnerable. And I remember the men who thought her vulnerability gave them permission." He paused, his face darkening slightly at some memory. "I couldn't protect her from everything. But I can protect other people's daughters when I see them being hurt in places I have influence." He looked at me directly. "Vincent was a coward who targeted the weakest person in every room. Men like that need to be removed before they do real damage." "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me for basic human decency." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Simple, expensive paper. Just a name, Marco DeLuca, and a phone number. "If you ever need help, if anyone ever puts their hands on you again, if you're in trouble and don't know where to turn, call that number." "I don't understand," I said. "Why would you help me?" "You don't know me." "I know enough," he said. "I know you work 3 jobs. I know you come here exhausted and still do your work perfectly. I know you never complain, never cause problems, never ask for anything. I know you've been surviving something most people couldn't survive, and you've done it alone." How did he know that? I hadn't told anyone about my other jobs, my situation, my life. He saw my confusion. "I notice things, Sophie. It's what I do. And what I've noticed is that you deserve better than what you've been getting." He placed the card on the table between us. "I'm not offering charity," he said. "I'm offering a phone number. Use it if you need it, or don't. But know that it's there." He left then, walking out into the Brooklyn night, leaving me standing alone with a business card and the unfamiliar feeling of being seen. I kept the card. I don't know why. I tucked it into my wallet behind my expired student ID and my food stamps card, where I'd see it every time I needed money for the subway. Vincent never came back. The restaurant hired a new manager within a week, a woman in her 40s named Patricia who'd managed restaurants in Manhattan and knew how to run a kitchen without screaming. She was fair, professional, and actually smiled at the staff. It was jarring. Mr. DeLuca still came every Thursday at 7, still ordered his linguine, still tipped 30%. But now, sometimes, he'd ask how I was doing. Really ask, waiting for a real answer. I didn't know how to give him one at first. But slowly, over weeks, I started answering honestly. I told him about my other jobs. He asked why I needed 3. I explained about Trent, about having no family support, about trying to save enough to maybe take 1 class at community college eventually. He listened without judgment. One Thursday, 2 months after the incident with Vincent, Mr. DeLuca didn't order his usual linguine. Instead, he asked if I'd sit with him for a moment during my break. "I have a proposition," he said once I'd sat down nervously across from him, "and I want you to understand it's exactly that, a proposition, not a demand. You can say no without any consequences." I waited. "I own several businesses, legitimate businesses," he emphasized, as if reading my thoughts. "Restaurants, a few commercial properties, a catering company. I need someone I can trust to manage administrative work, scheduling, payroll, interfacing with vendors. It would be full-time, steady hours, benefits, salary that's triple what you're making from all three of your current jobs combined. I stared at him. Why me? I asked. I have no experience with that kind of work. You're intelligent, detail-oriented, and you show up, he said. Those are the qualities that matter. The rest you can learn. And Sophia, he leaned forward slightly, his voice serious. You're drowning. I'm offering you life preserver. Not because I want something from you, because I can, and because no one should have to work themselves to death at 24 just to afford a basement apartment. I don't understand why you care, I said, my voice breaking slightly. Because someone should have cared about you a long time ago, he said simply, and they didn't. So I'm caring now. Take the weekend. Think about it. If you want the job, call the number on the card I gave you. I did think about it. For 2 days I turned it over in my mind, looking for the catch, the hidden price, the inevitable moment when kindness would reveal itself as another form of control. But I was so tired, so desperately, completely exhausted, and the thought of sleeping more than 4 hours, of having health insurance, of not calculating every dollar spent against dollars need to it was intoxicating. I called the number on Monday. I started the new job 2 weeks later. It was real. The salary was real. The small apartment in a safer neighborhood that I could suddenly afford was real. The benefits were real. Mr. DeLuca Marco, he insisted I call him at work, was demanding but fair, expecting excellence but providing support. I learned quickly. I was good at the work. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was building something. 6 months later, I enrolled in 2 classes at community college. Marco adjusted my schedule to accommodate them without me asking. A year later, I had my own small office. 2 years later, I was managing operations for all 5 of Marco's restaurants. I still saw him weekly at Moretti, as it remained his favorite spot. But now I'd join him sometimes, just to talk about business, about life, about the daughter in Boston who called him every Sunday and made him laugh in ways that softened his usually serious face. He never asked for anything beyond good work, never made me uncomfortable, never treated me as anything other than someone deserving of respect and opportunity. He'd seen me being hurt and decided to do something about it, not for praise or gratitude, but because it was right. Sometimes I think about that night, about Vincent's hand on my arm, about being dragged through the restaurant while everyone watched and no one moved, about Marco standing up from his corner booth with that quiet, terrible calm. One person deciding that what was happening wasn't acceptable. One person using their power not to take but to protect. It changed everything. We teach people how powerless they are. We teach them to accept cruelty as inevitable, to keep their heads down, to survive quietly without expecting protection or